Michelle? Can't hear you.
Hi there.
Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Where are you at? Are you in Oregon?
No, I'm in Palm Desert, California. It's about 115 here.
Oh, okay. Did you get this? I sent to
The
you.
PowerPoint? Yes, I did. I've looked at it. Thank you.
I think our county judge is from that area.
Do you have
The
it?
Palm
Can
Desert?
you share
I think
that on
Palm
your
Springs.
screen?
Are you talking to me?
We're trying to get a way to show the presentation.
Okay, let me go and grab it. I saw it on my phone earlier. Just a second. I bet I can.
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, perfect, yes.
Yes.
And
Saw
it's,
it.
but it's the most recent one.
Oh, there's a new one?
Yeah, it's got the current occupancy data and all that kind of information. And it's, they had one of these when we met with Noah. Yeah, I got that. He put together, but it didn't have some of this stuff in it, like the occupancy data and all that. Right.
I did like the market rate versus the 60%.
Yeah. When we get Michelle back, we'll
Information.
do roll call and that kind of stuff.
That was,
So we dropped her.
well, that was real good information.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Presentation on that last night, so I think it's.
the way the agenda is laid out,
Yeah, we'll move
Okay, sorry.
we can go.
Sorry, I was
We
gone.
can go.
I had to. Okay, I believe I can share the
Approve
presentation.
the minutes, and then go to the executive session after you hear these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, there's just a picture up there, you know.
Did you see?
You want to do exec first?
No, I want to do it last after
Okay.
you hear the discussions,
Yeah.
because we have an attorney
Yeah, where you
on
getting
the,
paid? Yeah.
and then we have Ken representing the developer, and then,
Perfect. All right.
Darren's representing.
We will
us.
call this meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Kyle to order. It is 5:35 PM, July 10th, and I will turn it over to Steve for unanimous roll call.
Daniel,
Here.
Michelle,
Present.
Brad. David. Okay.
All right.
We have a quorum.
We got a quorum. The whole group's here. So then we have, next up on the agenda is citizen comment. So we'll open up for citizen comment. I don't see anyone here, and I don't believe anyone is registered.
Nobody from.
Oh, I'll come back and do that.
Kyle Council oversight.
Nope, no one there. So then we'll close public testimony. We open it at 5:35. We'll close it at 5:35. And then Steve did remind me, I'm off my game. I skipped item number 2, which is the read and approval of the minutes from the January 25th, 2024 Commissioners Meeting. Give everybody a moment to review. And then when that's done, we'll accept a motion if ready.
I have no corrections.
All right. David, Brad, y'all have any?
Neither do
All right.
I. Or is that a motion?
So I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right. And do we have a second? All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. And then I think the next item we want to take up on the agenda is number 6, which is new business. And I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about new business.
Well, at our last meeting, we discussed and actually, our last 2 meetings, we've had discussions with Noah, Laredo, and about the partnership idea of the Housing Authority joining with Stryker on the Opal Point at Kyle Apartments. And since y'all gave me the okay to back in January to work with them to try to develop come to some sort of stage where we could bring it back to y'all to vote on. And I have worked with Darren Smith on this ever since then. And, we had memorandum of understanding submitted, about 3 different ones, actually.
There was Chapman Color represents the Housing Authority, and Nora O'Brien is actually on the Zoom call. Shackelford represented the developer, and you had your attorney take the final look-see at it.
Right, and after we'd get a version of it, then I would send it to David Fritchie, who we've been using, and have him look at it. And just about every time he got done with his review, they'd come up with a new one from the other side. And so I'd send another one to David. At any rate, when we finally got the third one, and Darren promised me it was the final. And so I had David review it, and he found a handful of things in it that he thought needed to be reworded or changed or whatever. And so I sent that to Darren. He took it to the attorneys, and they made all the changes that David had recommended. And so we're at the stage now. I've sent y'all the memorandum of understanding, but I think what I'd like to do today is get Darren and Ken and Nora, who's on the virtual. She is an attorney with the firm that prepared the MOU, and let them take over and tell you all about this as a refresher, and then also answer any questions to make sure you all understand everything as it's been presented. Does that sound reasonable?
That's perfect, yeah. It's called,
Can you hear? Nora's muted.
Nora's here. I see her.
I see her, she's on, are the screens not up
Hi.
there, not working? Oh,
I
there,
just wanna make
okay,
sure she can talk.
all right.
Nice to meet everyone virtually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to share, so I do have the ability to share screen and share the presentation if that's something that's needed. That is an option.
Okay,
Thank you,
good,
Michelle.
thank you.
Yeah, so this is something that we've been working on for a while, and Darren Smith at Oxiano Development, and I work for the Housing Authority. So what I do, this is probably maybe my 30th or 40th deal in this structure, Section 392. So I sat with Steve that while some of the business terms were previously discussed and kind of flushed out, I stayed true to that and actually worked with the developer as late as last night to increase the overall public benefit analysis, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But this is Opal Point at Kyle. I knew you knew where it was, but I always kind of, go to page 2. I kind of put a dot in the map so you kind of know what part of the city it is, and then kind of zoom in a little bit closer if any other amenities pop up around it. These are actual photos of the development. I actually toured the development today, got in a little early, and it's beautiful. Venkat does great work. This is probably the 5th development that I've seen that he's built, and I've been impressed at every one of them. So there's always a little tweak or a twerk. And there's one in here later in his portfolio that I think it's just one of the nicest properties in this little city. But these are real photos from the architect. The property is 100% complete. It did receive its CO in May. So they are currently leasing, and I'll get to that in a minute. Simply, 4-story garden-style apartments. They're 338 units, 9 buildings. Average square foot's 857, which is comparable to today's construction. the amenities are, this is an A-plus property. You're talking garages, some attached, detached, you got carports, they have a resort-style pool that's incredible. Clubhouse, fitness center, dog park, and a business center, all of which are done I mean, it was great to tour it, and I told Steve I was gonna try to get here early to see it. I don't like to present a development that I don't actually walk or get to touch, you know? If they've got it built. If it's new construction, then I'm looking at their plans. I got a rent roll as of July 9th, and just kind of summarized it for you. They're currently 35% occupied. They are 12% leased, so those are people that are moving in this month. And then they have 12% that are vacant but leased, so they've signed leases that will be after this month, so whether they're August or September. And then they're 41% vacant. And talking to Ken and his cohorts, there is a belief that they will hit their occupancy target within the next 9 to 12 months. So basically what happens is a property needs to be at whatever the negotiated debt coverage ratio is from the financial institution. So if they have to be at a 1.15 or a 1.2, 1.25, which is 25% above whatever the debt is, they'll have to maintain that for 90 days before they can actually convert into a perm state. So what they're proposing is to get into a mini perm so that they can close with the housing authority, so 3 to 5 year debt, and then they would convert that into permanent debt once they actually achieve occupancy. So they would like to close with the housing authority in the next 60, 90 days with a mini perm with the ability to go to a permanent debt structure. I've done that before, I've seen that before, and I don't think that's foreign for Nora as well. One of the things that happened last night, I mean, you'd already negotiated 20 at 60, and you know, for a market like this, I think that's a very good number. I'm usually seeing like 10% in the Austin area, so to get 20% at 60 is a good number. 30% at 80. And the public benefit from a rent perspective is roughly about $450,000 of rental savings going to citizens of Kyle or future citizens of Kyle, whoever move here. If you look at the next page, this is the, and I apologize, I thought I had the page numbers on. This will be kind of the 10-year pro forma. It'll say 11-year. But it's 10 years. Oh, and I see it shrunk some columns when it printed. And really, this is just to show kind of the projections. The income, you have to look at it as not just income to the developer, that's a preferred equity return to the equity investor. So there's a slug of that. The majority of it will go to repay the equity that's associated with this investment. And then, of course, the operator will receive some of that. I don't know what and I hardly ever get what the pref structure is to equity investors. I would say on average, 12 to 14%, Ken? Okay, pref to equity investors? Okay. So this is kind of a 10-year look. This is a little more conservative than what the developer presented to you in your package. Because you get 1.5% of the gross sales proceeds on disposition, but I wanted a more realistic look of what the property would look like. So I believe the developer's numbers were roughly around 2.6 million for a disposition fee, and this is going to show 1.9 million for a disposition fee. So I'm just a little tighter in my underwriting than they are. So, and then if you go to the next page, which will say Opal Point at Kyle Housing Authority, that's kind of the summary of the public benefit, and you calculate that public benefit off the portion of the taxes. And so in year one, the estimated taxes is $955,000. And the rent savings in year one is estimated at $449,000. So that's how you get to that initial 47% rental savings to tenants that qualify for the program. Your lease payment is 25% of the tax payment. That's above market, so that you did good there. The acquisition fee is 75 basis points. That is kind of market in this world. And then a compliance fee. So when I work as a consultant, I also do the compliance because there'll be a regulatory agreement tied to the property recorded with the county that they have to maintain compliance of 20% at 60 and 30% at 80, either occupied or reserved. So I'm reporting back to Steve that they either are or they aren't, and then we decide how we handle it if they aren't. And then you got a disposition fee of about $1,986,000. Again, that's based on my conservative underwriting versus what the developer had at 2.6, because I can't project what's going to happen 10 years from now. I don't know what interest rates or cap rates are going to be. But so when I look at this and I look at all the benefits that come back to the housing authority, you know, there's a total tax number of $10.7 million over 10 years. Yeah, that number could be higher, could be lower, who knows? I mean, multifamily valuations are they're going through the roof. So that's just a projection. But I do know what your benefits are from an actual cash perspective outside of the disposition fee and a good guesstimation of what the rental savings are. And if you look at the total benefit package, including the disposition fee, you're about 98% public benefit. So you're getting 98% of the taxes that you're essentially transferring out, right? So that benefit is coming back to the community. So that's a very great number. And then when you look at the next line, which says percent of tax benefit less disposition, because we don't know what that number is going to be, I mean, you're still at 79%. And I've seen deals that, you know, come in around 55 or 59%. You know, I'd like to see 60 at a minimum. So I think with the annual lease payment the way it is and the acquisition fee, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid deal from a numbers perspective. And now that I've seen it, I know it's a good asset. So just going forward, they do social impact initiatives. I mean, this isn't their first rodeo. As a matter of fact, Venkat presented a deal to a client I have, Frisco Housing Authority. They got approved about 2 months ago, and it's a new construction deal. So they definitely partner with a lot of nonprofits. Susu's a program that kind of helps people build their credit score through paying their rent, things of that nature. So there's their goals, you know, off to the side. I think they're a true social impact developer. Venkat's information, like I said, don't ask me to say his last name because I would fail. But he's a Plano-based developer. You know, great assets. I really don't have anything negative to say about what they've got going on. And again, I met their management company today. That would be the next thing that I would look at. And it's Sunridge, if you didn't know that, but they did a great job today in not letting us tour the property without proper approval. So we were kind of cornered. So that's always a good sign to see. But you know, here's some of the assets that he built over time. If you look back where he has his portfolio of developments, on the Salina property is real. It looks just like that. Great property. And then if you look at the second page, the picture to the top right, that is just a neat looking product in Melissa, Texas. He partnered with another fairly large developer, which is Glen Ridge Development, Mark Barnigan. So again, Barnigan's got a great reputation in the industry, and his portfolio is behind. I haven't seen a lot of his deals up close, but have checked in with some of my other developer counterparts and no negative responses. And then obviously from a property management perspective, Sunridge Property Management, which is out of the Dallas area. but they're fairly large with 19,000 units in the state of Texas. And Rod Aiken is their principal. So, I mean, in short, it's, I do due diligence on the companies that bring opportunities to you. And these companies checked out, and I believe the benefits that you're getting economically are sufficient to, offer the ad valorem tax exemption. So I don't know if you have any questions for Ken with relation to VinCat, or I know Board Member Lopez, right? You have questions as it relates to the MOU, so I know Nora can definitely tackle those. So any questions?
Michelle? You're muted.
I had done that so that I wouldn't go on camera if there was a noise. I did have a question just about what other properties that you've seen in this situation, just with the taxes, just a little concerned adding so many individuals just for things like emergency services district, and ensuring that there's enough provided for them with the increase in individuals who are living in that space. So I just didn't know if that was something that had been addressed at other properties, or it seemed to work out as you've worked with other properties like this, with projects like this.
Yeah, I think it comes up when you have an abundance of product in one particular area. I mean, Kyle is not necessarily fully matured yet, but it's a heck of a lot bigger than the last time I came through, as I was telling Steve. So when you as a housing authority start to get other offers to partner, then you have to be mindful not to congregate those assets close to one another, to actually, you want to spread them out, right? So that's the only thing I would say to you as it relates to kind of first responder sort of situations and taxing district. You just, you want to keep your portfolio kind of nice and mixed away from each other, but it hasn't been an issue, in the Friscos of the world or the McKinneys of the world. They haven't had an issue at all. Those
Okay.
are both
Thank you.
clients too.
Thank you.
Now, you had questions on the MOU too.
Yes, I think some of them, it was just, there were some pieces, but I think you probably have answered them, because there were some individuals that it stated we would have, we would be the managing partner, there's the administrative partner, but I think you've put those in the presentation today. So there were a lot of pieces that just had generic name, and I was curious about that. And then I saw that there is the information about what the agreements are, because that was, I think, Exhibit A. So I was just wanting to make sure. I think it was really some questions about who would be named to those, and I think you've addressed that.
Okay. Probably if anything, Nora, I probably should have got with you and we should have given you kind of an organizational chart on how this thing would look. And I'll get with Nora and make sure I send that over to you.
Okay.
So you can kind of see
Yeah.
because this is an essential ownership function. You are the sole GP.
Correct.
And essentially, there's nothing we have to do other than to receive reports from you and,
Yeah, look, if I have not been involved, and I probably did my first 392 execution 15 years ago. And I have not been involved in a situation where the GP has to remove the limited partner. Now, Nora can speak to that, but I haven't seen it, because the limited partner has too much to risk. I mean, they provided 25 to 40% of the equity of the development, depending on the time and, economic situation of when they closed. So, typically they're going to do everything they can to maintain that tax exemption. So yes, there would be a delegations document. Nora, could you speak to the delegations on how that would
Sure.
typically work?
Yeah, so the entity that's formed will serve as managing member of the company. And then you will delegate all of the day-to-day operations to the administrative partner. So it, essentially for purposes of day-to-day tasks, that's all delegated to the developer partner. So there won't be anything, and then obviously the compliance monitoring, but your obligations are limited.
So a quick question on part of the funding. So is there a single dollar of federal funds in this property?
Not that I'm aware of. This is straight debt and equity. Now, they may go and put a 223F, which is a HUD loan for a permanent mortgage, but that's commonplace.
Okay, but not from the development side of the project? So you're
No.
not subject to the Section 3 and
No.
David Bacon
No.
labor compliance? Okay.
No. And because it's kind of a sole source situation, they brought it to you. You don't have to worry about procurement or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Anybody got any other questions?
No questions from me. So when you're that thorough, doesn't lead to questions, so.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. He's just here if you have questions about the developer.
Oh, yeah. I live for housing authority. I'm happy to answer any questions on, for the developer. One thing I'll point out too, on revenue streams,
They may not be.
yeah, let me be official. Ken Montgomery representing the developer. And so on the revenue streams, one of the items is a refinance. And so there's a piece of revenue when Darren was describing going from the construction loan to a mini permanent loan. Once they refinance that, they'll probably do it after year 4, but they might do it in year 3. The minimum revenue to the housing authority will be $300,000. So that's another revenue stream that isn't on some of the public benefit analysis. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Steve, that was the difference between version 1 and 2.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm here to answer any questions on for the developer.
All right, so if we close in 60, 90 days, as you said, at that time, the housing authority will get $459,000?
That's right.
Yes, that'll be on the settlement slip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that would be additional money 3 or 4 years from now?
I think,
Yeah.
Nora, if you're, oh, there she is.
And
That's if they.
Is it
rebuy it.
after year 4?
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just going to
Unless
that
you changed it
section.
in the
Yeah,
term,
no, you
let's
did.
see.
No, I don't think we changed it.
It's after year 4.
So after year 4, there's nothing? Or, no, after
No,
year
it's
4.
300,000 after year 4 for the remainder of the term.
Yeah, if it occurs after the 4th anniversary, the fee is 300,000.
Okay, I remember I was going back and forth on that with them. So if they do it within 4 years, then there's not a fee. If it's after the 4th anniversary, then there is.
No,
And
it's
then
higher.
there's a fee? Okay.
It's higher.
It's higher?
Yeah. It's like, Nora, I don't have it.
Yeah,
here.
so
It's
it's
like-
upon refinance, it's 50, the lesser of 50% of the net cash
Yeah.
available for distribution. I mean, it's a formula basically,
Mm-hmm.
and then if the refinance occurs after the 4th anniversary, it's a flat 300,000.
I now remember.
Yeah.
So essentially, you have the possibility to make more in the first 4 years. And their concern was after the 4th year, well, in the first 4 years, you're still stabilizing, you're growing. And the debate became if they refinanced after year 5 or 6, there could be a big delta, right? Because the appraised value of the property could be a lot higher. And they could take proceeds out, and essentially it's like refinancing your house, right? You take a slug of money out for yourself. And so the formula was written so that wouldn't be the case. You would get a slug of that money. Am I wrong on that, Nora? Is that the intention?
Yeah, you're correct. It's a formula until until the 4th anniversary, and then it's the flat fee.
So that's another source of revenue.
We've seen some developers recap deals after year 3 or 4, and particularly after year 3, because now it's stabilized, it's occupied, and the value goes up. And so they just do like the refinance of your mortgage at home and take that, HELOC piece out for yourself. And so that was something that Chapman actually brought to our attention, and that was the reason from version 1 to version 2, more than likely, because that was one that came up pretty early.
Okay.
So there's a slug of money coming one way or the other when they go from mini perm to perm.
Okay. David, you have anything?
I just had one question about, you did mention public benefit. Would that include any programs or anything that would be available to the tenants?
It's not included in that number, but there are. So Darren mentioned the credit repair. At other properties, they've done financial education. This developer has done health fairs, for instance. So there are a few different things that they kind of program at the property. It's not, but that's not a dollar amount that's reflected in the public benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's where they can find those local services, right? So that's why they really don't, they kind of give you kind of a menu because they're looking for people to partner with to bring that sort of service to the property.
Yeah, those are very localized. So, yeah.
Except Susan, that's national.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the finance stuff is getting more technology, financial, or Suzu. There's another one that does, that helps with rent, and I forget what, I don't think they use it, but nonetheless, yeah. Some of that stuff's kind of scaling up. But the core healthcare, financial literacy, or financial education, that kind of thing, that's all local.
Right. Can I ask what section D is reserved for? What will, in the MOU, what will go in that place?
Section D being reserved, I think it's just a placeholder, it happens.
Okay.
You're muted.
Nora would never do this.
Yeah,
but
you
if she
said-
forgot something, it gives her someplace to put it.
Oh, you said section D. Yeah, I think it probably was something we had in there that wasn't needed. And we try and keep our forms pretty standard just so we make sure we don't miss anything and make sure everything is in there. But if the preference is to remove it, we can always move everything up.
Listen, this MOU is, it is the foundational document for the partnerships and whatever else, but it's something that can be taken out when we get to the actual partnership agreement. It can be handled in that capacity as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
And Nora, I want to say that might have been the 140% language, but I can't remember.
Sorry, what did you say?
I want to say that might have been the 140% language that they were opposed to. Because originally your document came out as a 394, right?
Yeah, probably had that in there.
Yeah, so I think it was some 394 stuff, which is a little bit different than 392s.
And then I think, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if for that section D, maybe we just put something that it's not applicable, so that way you don't lose it, that it's there, but it's very clear that there was nothing missing. When we get, I don't know, a few years down the road and people are not remembering this conversation.
Well, so the MOU is just your memorandum of understanding to enter into the transaction. But to be honest, it kind of becomes irrelevant once the deal closes and you enter into all of the agreements in connection with the partnership. So,
Okay,
but happy to make the change so that it's obvious that we didn't mistake something.
thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was getting confused a little bit, because on like K1, it talks about the MOU, the language herein, and it is a contract and not merely an agreement. So why wouldn't we just have a contract?
Well, it is a contract. I mean, it's considered a contract, not an agreement to agree.
So this is, we've talked about construction to permanent. That's kind of what the MOU does for the agreement, is the MOU gets us to the partnership agreements, to the closing table. So this is basically a contract to get to the closing table, for all intents and purposes. That's kind of the role that it serves.
And then it goes away at that.
Right, and it's then the partnership is governed by the partnership agreements.
Right, so I think you can see that in, sorry, I'm just getting, in section K, in number 13, the provisions of the MOU with respect to the project are terminated when the managing member is admitted to the company, and the authority and the developer and their affiliates all enter into the definitive agreements. So this is your agreement or contract to get to the closing.
Okay,
I have no further questions.
go ahead.
No, she said no more.
I have,
Oh, you don't have any more? Oh, okay. What I'd like to do is, if Daniel agrees, break into a executive session and discuss this amongst ourselves, and then come back and, talk about it more.
Sure, if you have any questions, just, we'll be right here.
Okay. And Nora, I guess you could leave.
Yeah, does someone want to just shoot me an email if you need me to come back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Nice to meet you all.
thank you. Bye.
Yep. All right, so it is 6:10 PM and we will recess to executive session. Actions were taken, decisions made, so, I guess we can go back to, do we want to let the,
Everybody know.
I'll text him.
all right. All right. All right, so it's 6:21, and we'll go back to agenda item 6, which is new business, which is consider and possible action on the proposed partnership with Steiker Properties for a workforce housing transaction for Opal Point at Kyle Apartments. All right, do we have any, I guess, additional comments
Yeah.
or discussion or a motion?
I guess I'll move that we, the board, I'm losing my words, sorry. I move that the board approve our executive director, Steve Colella, to sign the memorandum of understanding as presented for us and reviewed today so that we can move forward with this project.
Awesome. Do we have a second? All right, Brad seconds. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we've approved the motion to proceed with the MOU related to Opal Point. All right, great work. So I think the last agenda item we have is Your management report, Steve?
Okay, well,
So, the board has approved it, and for me to sign it and proceed.
right.
What do you want to do next, other than have me actually sign it?
I have a question, but it needs to be an executive session.
Okay,
So.
so he needs to leave?
Yeah, I would need you to go back into executive session. As your consultant, I can stay,
Okay,
but I don't want to ask this question.
All right. All right.
So it has to be recorded.
So it's 6:23 and we'll reconvene executive session. All right. So we're back live. So now we're going to go back to new business, and I believe we will have a clarification to our previously approved motion. And I don't know if Ms. Lopez,
it.
Dr. Lopez would like to do that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just propose a friendly amendment that clarifies what we're needing and what we're authorizing our executive director to do. And so I'd like to amend the motion so that it reads, the Housing Authority commissioners are authorizing Steve Colella to enter into this memorandum of understanding, to sign it, and any and all necessary documents to financially close this transaction.
All right, we got a second?
Second.
All right, second by Brad. All righty, any opposed? Hearing none, we have approved the revision to the MOU authorization, which now gets us back to number 5, management report.
you guys are done. Thank you for being here,
Thank you.
and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, sir.
I'll be on the road after lunch, because I got that TDC board meeting.
Okay. Now that that's done, I've got several items I will briefly tell you about, because we've already been here for a while. But I want to say congratulations. I think this is a good move on your part, so.
Thank you. Thanks for your effort to get it here.
Well, it just kind of fell in my lap, actually, and, you know, fortunately, I asked enough people that I know in the industry, found out that it was a good thing to do, so,
Yeah, you're handsome and lucky. I mean, what could be better?
exactly. Both properties are 100% occupied. We've been slowed down. We're gonna paint, we're gonna replace all of the exterior wood on 3 buildings over at Petras, and I've already told you all about this, but I had the decorator that chose the color scheme for Charles Young come back over here, and she picked 3 different color schemes, and what we're gonna do is we're going to actually, by building type, we're gonna paint them in 3 different color schemes so that we have kind of the look of a village as opposed to the old brown colors that HUD used all the time. I hate that color. I've told you that before, but I think the 3 color schemes are real nice. I looked at them already. They actually, the contractor hadn't been able to start yet because the city is making him jump through hoops getting building permits or construction permits.
Yeah.
And so they believe they'll be ready to go in about another week. So it's slowed the process down, but that's okay. And we're going to do the 3 buildings. The first 3 buildings are going to front Burleson Street, so people driving by will see what's going on, as
good.
opposed to starting in the back. which is the way most people do it, but the contractor recommended we just take the three buildings that, front the street and do those.
So is the old siding coming off?
All the siding's coming off, we're gonna go with a hardy board, and then all the trim's coming off, and we're gonna replace all the doors, front doors and the storage room doors, those are all hollow core, which is, I don't know why anybody would do that, but,
So you can be with nature, so you can really feel it.
yeah. And so,
Yeah.
at any rate, that'll all be done, and it's gonna take a couple of years to do it. Now, on the plan that I laid out, a year and a half ago, but once we get this money, then I can escalate the plan and, have him finish the rest of it. But we'd originally laid it out to do in 5 phases, 3 buildings at a time, because I'm only setting aside 9,000 and change a month to do it all. And so, I got that contractor to agree to do it in 5 stages, so. He'll be glad to hear, and I haven't said nothing to him about this other thing, but he'll be glad to hear when I tell him,
Do you recall what that average cost per building was?
it's $247,000, so
For 3?
for 16
Oh,
buildings.
16, oh, okay.
So that's about, what, 15,000 a building? And that includes the painting, as well as all the exterior work. That number does not include the exterior doors, though. That'll come separately. Let's see. We've never talked about it, but Daniel and I and David Fritchie spent a lot of time and effort working with the USDA people to make a deal to pay off that note. And the deal that we finally made with them, actually was Fritchie's idea, was to pay it down to $1,000, have them re-amortize the balance, and let us pay that off on monthly installments until 2029, when the note matures. We wanted to pay the note off in full, but they wanted to have a LURA attached to the property that would stay in place until the last resident moved out that was living there the day that we paid the note off. And, Fritchie said, what if we rent to somebody who's 20 years old the day before, and they live there for 50 years? We'll be stuck with that LURA for 50 years. And USDA would not come off of that. They basically told us that they were tied to federal regulations. And Fritchie came up with the idea about paying, 99% of it off. And then, like I said, re-amortizing it and making a smaller payment every month until it's paid off.
Yeah, and we've been transparent about that, if that is a viable strategy
Right.
with the collective outside stakeholders, and everybody has said, yeah,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with it, it's just, it's within the it's legally possible.
When they came back at us with that deal about having that LURA, I appealed the plan, and that put us into meetings with a administrative judge, with the USDA, and there was conference calls we had, or Zoom meetings, where there was 15, 20 people in the meeting. The amount of money that was spent on it was probably more than the balance on that mortgage. At any rate, so once we got that agreement from them that they would do what we asked, I went to Jerry Hendricks, or Daniel and I had a meeting with him, and Jerry informed us that he didn't think that we were gonna be able to pull that off, so he didn't have the city budget the money, which really irked the hell out of me, and even more so Daniel. And it just, so what we decided was we were just gonna go back and say, USDA, we can't do it. And that's what I did, so I withdrew the appeal. And that's where it stands today. Now, I think that we make this deal with this partnership, and we get that money, I think I can go back to the USDA and reopen that idea and get them to do that. And we can use some of the money.
Well, I think we just make the payment. That's my recollection. We just make a payment. It's like just a simple, it's a simple loan, and they just calculate the interest off of it. So
Right.
I don't think I don't recall us needing permission. We just write a check and, so.
Well, we could do it that way, but I think just to keep it civil, I'll go back to them and say, this is what we're gonna do. At any rate, so that's where that all went. I was really upset about that because we put a lot of work and time to get that done, and then the city said, no, we can't do it.
Steve, as a 20-year government employee, I was not shocked that there would be a hurdle in a statute or an administrative rule that would preclude us from getting through it. So that's the problem with you private sector guys. So
What can I tell you?
Well, at least you've been creative.
Yeah,
Right.
You've been pretty
Yeah.
creative with this whole thing.
and then, let's see, next thing is, well, I was gonna tell you about Darren, but I hadn't introduced you all to Darren. Franconia claim. I checked in with Ralph Coppersmith recently just to see where we were going on that. And he tells me, just last week, that because we got, you're gonna laugh when you hear this, because we got $75,000 donations from the city and the county, they had to report that and build that into how they calculate the money that they think that HUD owes the housing authority. So with that happening in 2023, it changed the numbers. And so what the claim that they've submitted on our behalf is for, once I gave them the okay to proceed last week, or on June 26th, the claim is gonna be for $1,397,375, of which, and Ralph is quite sure we're gonna get that. So the net proceeds to the housing authority would be about $931,000 and change. He says that we'll get that money sometime in 2025.
We're almost there.
Yeah, I know, it's only a year away, so. So that's another, bit of good news and good fortune for, the housing authority.
well, after 8 years, we may have finally gotten this thing where the mayors wanted it.
Yeah.
So under your leadership.
Yep, well, no,
Yes.
I'll just follow
Thank
orders,
you.
that's y'all's leadership. The one thing that I did, just because we weren't able to get a meeting together, was I had to approve the budget for the fiscal year on the public housing for the period 7/1/24 through 6/30/25.
So we'll need to ratify that at some
Yeah,
future
and
point.
I need to ratify that because I had Daniel sign the paperwork, 'cause, the public housing guy told me he had to have it before June 30th. So, Daniel signed it on the 24th, and I need, I have a copy of the budget with me. I have not sent it to y'all, but I can tell you that it's accurate. And what I do need is a motion to ratify the fact that he signed it on June 24th on behalf of the Housing Authority.
So, but if it's not posted, I guess we're in a bind, right?
Pardon me?
Since we're not posted
We're
for
not
that,
posted for
I
it.
don't think we can actually do a motion.
Really?
Right, we don't have we don't have that.
But we can come back and do it another time.
Well, we can do it, yeah, we can do it at another meeting, at the next meeting. I'll add it to the next meeting.
Let's do it.
As long as we have a record of it at some point in the future, that's fine. I do want to let you know that insurance is going up again. The property insurance is going up 24%. There's no change on the general liability policy, but 24% is a pretty hefty increase. But I can tell you that that's not uncommon. It's happening everywhere.
Have we looked at a different deductible structure?
Well,
I'm assuming I'm assuming it's hail that they're
yeah,
gonna be mad about, not fire.
it's,
We don't have flood or wind probably here as
we do have.
as a big exposure.
We do have some flood and wind, and we have hail. It's just that, you know, property, and you can't beat this property coverage. It's done through TML, which only deals with housing authorities. And you know, I've had my agent look at it every way he could, and he can't, he said, this is a better deal than you're gonna find anywhere.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing is, personally and professionally, we're raising our deductible structure. So we take a larger deductible and it's, you know, it's a gamble, right? But
Yeah,
the problem is when you do, I don't even know what our deductible is, but I'm sure it's probably fairly low, but
it's 2,500.
yeah, I don't know. To me, it'd be worthwhile to look for,
I'll ask him.
I mean, especially if this other stuff materializes, so. Because what's our operating budget around here?
Um,
Hell, I got a higher deductible on my house than you got on this housing authority.
Well, that was in place, I didn't do
Yeah.
that. I've just maintained what we've got. Let me see here, what we've got for insurance.
No, just what's our total revenue?
Oh, the total revenue is, on public housing is gonna be 150,000,
Yeah, that's not,
on Pete Dressen's gonna be 420, almost 422.
yeah, well, I trust your judgment, I just make that
I'll-
observation.
I'll talk to him. That's a good thought.
I mean, you're getting everything else to shake out for us, so may as well keep on giving you more stuff.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
See, he likes the challenge, he's got a smirk now, so.
Right. He's ready to go.
That's all I got. It's been relatively quiet and, you know, the occupancy, properties are staying full. We're having a lot of, air conditioning problems, as you can imagine, you know, calls. We're just having to deal with them. But overall, you know, both of them are what I call stable, so that's good. And we get to this next phase, you know, in the next year, if we can pull all these things off, we'll get another $1.5 million, so that'll be great.
And our respective governmental oversight organizations are happy with us/you?
Nobody's questioning anything. I'm anticipating a Inspire inspection sometime this year on Pete Dressen, not on Charles Young, because it had a 94 last year.
They're not funded.
Huh?
They're not funded. Inspire inspections are not funded.
Really?
And they're not gonna do it during election. So we might get a pass.
That's good to know. I've done 3 of them in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're not funding it for any additional
Huh?
options to go out.
And we're having an MOR on the 25th of July, and you know, that'll be fine. We passed the last one after they failed several.
And the residents are happy with us
Yeah,
and you?
everybody's happy.
That's a Michelle,
I
that's
haven't
normally
had-
Michelle's
That's
go-to question.
amazing.
I have not had a resident
It was in
call
my
me
head. I was
in
waiting.
A year and a half. So,
Great.
The only time I've talked to a resident in the last year and a half was when we had that, that deal as part of the application to prepay the loan. The USDA had an interview with us, and they made it available to any residents so that they could participate in the conference call. And the two residents that participated got on only to say that they got on because they wanted to say what a great job this new management company was doing.
Bravo.
So,
That's great.
Yay.
anyway, that's all I got, unless y'all
That's
have
awesome.
any questions.
No, we'll let Michelle get back to whatever she's allegedly doing.
I've been working,
Yeah.
even in the 100 and something heat, so.
Perfect, perfect. All right, well, with that, and I always get this wrong, and you figure after 20 years, I would figure this out. I guess we need to adjourn, and do we need a motion to adjourn, or?
No, you
All
need,
right.
you need
There's
a
no
motion
other
to adjourn,
business.
but you don't need a second,
All
according
right,
to
so
Robert's
Michelle,
Rules
it's
of Order.
6:43, and Michelle moved, we adjourned, so we're done. Thanks, everyone.
All right,
All right,
Bye,
thank
Michelle.
y'all.
bye, Michelle,
Bye.
enjoy your vacation, I guess you're on vacation.
Thank you.